Smart 24, driving business.
Good evening to you, our dear viewer. This is Business Today, where we bring you the latest business news within the region. Thank you for joining us. Now, my name is Ronah Nahabwe with Winnie and Nakawuki and the sign language. To begin with, as the economy is expected to grow over the next 10 years, the government of Uganda is striving to build a nuclear power plant by the end of 2031 for the storage of electricity. Now, according to the State Minister of Energy, Sidronius Opolot, the nuclear power plant requires minimal uranium to generate a variety of energies. Now, let's have the report.
Following the energy policy of 2002, which allows for the use of both renewable and non-renewable energy sources, the Parliament passed the Atomic Energy Law in 2008 for the safe application of the nuclear energy. Apart from South Africa, Uganda will be the second country in Africa to own a nuclear power plant, and it will cost $9 billion. Okasai Oplot, the State Minister for Energy, discloses that Uganda just struck deals with other nations in the East Africa to make money abroad by selling power.
I talked about multitude of the potentials that we have. We must invest in developing them because the market is available for electricity as a commodity. We have entered into agreements with our neighbors. We have electricity power pool for East Africa. And when I talk of East Africa, it is not just Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, DRC and the rest. The East African power pool goes all the way to the north. It goes through Sudan, South Sudan, it goes to Libya, Egypt, and even Ethiopia. So if you consider this is a huge market that we have to trade electricity. And that also comes to his question, how do I actually tap into the available opportunities? I have my uranium. Why don't I use it to generate electricity? It is sustainable. It is clean, and it qualifies as green energy. So I must use all the potentials that I have to get electricity because I'm not short of the market. I need it for internal development to drive the economy of Uganda, but I should also be using it as an opportunity to export.
Okasai says that Ugandans should not have fear about safety, adding that they have got good technology.
We are taking nuclear energy as one source of clean and renewable energy because you need only little uranium to generate quite a number of energy. I know there is worry about the safety. This worry for safety is something that can be managed. There are technologies to enable us harness our resource. One resource that we have, we are not shy to say we have uranium. And we would want to utilize uranium for our own development. How can we do that? Let's use it for generation of electricity to enable us meet our aspirations and demands for development as a country. Let's not look at what the others think. The fear that we have can be managed.
When questioned where the money for this project will come from, given that Uganda is in a financial crisis, the acting commissioner for the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, Bidimumaso David, says that they have a strategy to use revenue from the extraction of oil and minerals to invest in.
Our plan is to use the income from the minerals and the exploitation of oil to invest in clean technologies. Yes, so those are our plans, and we think we are not making a mistake, because if you use your own minerals and use your own oil to create an opportunity for you to exploit the clean energy resources, eventually we will have a net zero energy supply, as in you consume and emit as much as you produce and emit. So while you're emitting, you are also absorbing. While you're producing, you are also consuming.
Bidimumaso assured the country that one nuclear power plant of 2,000 megawatts can help us to have the best electricity supply capacity for the development of the country.
Demand stands at 800 megawatts. One would say we have excess power. Now, we are the same people saying, please use electricity to cook and for vehicles. If 50% of the current vehicle-owning population switched to electric vehicles, we will immediately go into a deficit. Now, you want to build demand. Therefore, you must be ready to supply. A nuclear power plant, one nuclear power plant of 2,000 megawatts can help us to have the best electricity supply capacity for our system. So basically we are getting ready. We want to be ready for what is coming. We are building a demand, but we must also be able to supply the energy which is required. You need electric vehicles, which will always charge, mostly at night. And if you don't have enough electricity, we will go into darkness immediately, which we don't want. So the development of a nuclear power plant is also a priority, and it is timely, because we actually get the highest efficiency if we use the nuclear power plant.
Uganda is to continue with the $9 billion power plant project despite the high building expenses. Nuclear power facilities generally require numerous water resources in their operations. With the numerous low water scarcity, will Uganda be able to facilitate the nuclear operations? Samuel Kerumunda, Petron Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now that's a good innovation there. Now moving on, let's look at the inland container depot in Nairobi. The inland container depots are dry ports with the necessary tools for handling and short-term storage for containerized cargo, and the main objective of this dry port is to run by Kenya Ports Authority. This offer is effective services to traders, hence enabling international trade. 70% of the port's transit goods come from Uganda, indicating that two nations have close connections. Naomi Mitumba has details this report.
This is the Nairobi Inland Depot, where goods arrive from Mombasa. It takes 6 hours for the train to arrive, and on average, 8 trains are received, each carrying over 864 containers.
The total transit figures from the port of Mombasa, Uganda constitutes almost 70% of that traffic. So that by itself gives us an indication of how important Ugandans are. Basically our brothers, and there is a lot of trade between Kenya and Uganda, and that is a strong statement in terms of a very strong partnership between our country, Kenya and Uganda.
So the kind of transshipment we are talking about is not movement of wagons from one network to another one. It's just movement of the cargo, whether it's containerized cargo or conventional cargo. You move it using an equipment, whether it's a reach stacker or a terminal tractor. You move it from one network, which is SGR, to MGR, so that it can move to onwards hinterland areas. And for specifically, the main transshipment that happens is for the transit cargo that goes all the way to Uganda. And this happens both in here, ICD Nairobi, and Naivasha ICD. And
this is the operational control room where trucks are monitored from. For a truck to come in, it only takes 10 seconds. And for a truck to go out, it takes 2 to 3 minutes. 2,000 trucks are cleared within 24 hours.
Okay, coming in is about 10 seconds. Going out, we are averaging about 2 to 3 minutes because of the other interventions that are there. On average, we do around, we have actually done over 2,000 trucks in 24 hours, just using these two gates. So you can see how fast.
Regional, ESC, Regional Electronic Cargo Tracking System. The moment we finish facilitating from our end as URA here, it is automatically transmitted to KRA. Then they generate what we call a C2. Then they go ahead and arm the trucks with the e-seals. After arming, then they truck this cargo or the truck up to the border. When it is received by Uganda, then from there Uganda also continues to truck up to the destination.
ICDs are fully automated with a web system that enables Ugandans to know where the ship is instead of calling the port. These release 1,200 containers each day. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Nairobi, Kenya.
Thank you, Naomi Mutumba, for that wonderful report. Now, moving on, let's look at the World Cities Day. Uganda is yet to join the rest of the world to celebrate the World Cities Day that is scheduled on the November 15th. This year's celebration will be driven towards embracing development of cities to a global perspective themed under Act Local to Global. New cities were created in the country to improve physical planning, implementation of activities, and administration at large. Let's have the story.
The involvement of Uganda in the World Cities Day celebrations has been publicly announced by the Ministry of Land, Housing and Urban Development in collaboration with the European Union under Greening Uganda initiative. The day intends to improve local conversation by recognizing possibilities and steps to address issues brought about by the fast global pace of urbanization. It also aims to promote and inspire action embracing sustainable urbanization. Urban population growth in Uganda is now expected to be 5.3% annually. Cities are recognized for being social and economic engines that should be purposefully used to develop the country.
Urbanization presents significant opportunities and challenges at the same time. And here in Uganda, when we talk of urbanization, we're not only meaning of cities, we're not only meaning municipalities, town councils, but we're even meaning trading centers in the rural areas, which are bringing our populations to stay together overnight. Urbanization therefore presents significant opportunities and challenges at the same time. We are aware now that more than half of the world's population lives in the cities and the towns, and the number is growing every day. Cities are renowned as the engines of socio-economic drivers that should be intentionally leveraged to transform Uganda.
The European Union, in collaboration with other stakeholders, initiated a 3-year project that began in 2020 and will go on until 2023. By concentrating on green development, this attempts to promote sustainable development and inclusive of green growth in Uganda.
The point about that is we have an ambition now to move beyond plans. We have an ambition for a capital investment program of 394 million USD. Now the point about that is we don't have that money. We have to ensure that we have bankable projects, proven bankable projects to attract capital investment. There's plenty of capital investment available, but there are so few or too few actual bankable projects on paper to be able to harness that potential investment.
Arua, Gulu, Mbale, Jinja, Masaka, Mbarara, and Fort Portal municipalities were elevated to the status of cities, while Hoima, Entebbe, Lira, Moroto, Nakasongola, Soroti, Kabale, and Wakiso municipalities will begin operations in the upcoming years. The phrase secondary cities is used to designate the new cities as being on par with Kampala, the country's capital, in terms of population size, administrative territory, and political, economic, or historic significance. Design Nambiru, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Let's now move on to the spotlight on the Karamoja region. Now, one of Uganda's least traveled or explored locations in Karamoja is the Karamoja region. In order to entice investors to this area, the Ugandan government has made significant efforts to construct infrastructure like roads, schools, and other electricity programs. As a result, Karamoja leaders are urging additional investment in this region as a method to address both the residents and the ongoing issues to boost the national income. Let's have the report.
There are 9 districts in the Karamoja sub-region, which is located in northern Uganda, and these include Kabong, Kotido, Abim, Moroto, Napak, Amdat, Nabilatu, Karenga, and Nakapiripirit districts. With high rates of malnutrition and a disproportionately high 61% of its 1.6 million inhabitants living in extreme poverty, Karamoja is regarded as one of the world's poorest regions. 4 significant developing economies have been identified by the leaders as being present in Karamoja: agriculture, mineral development, tourism, and construction. Resources, especially food, are under pressure, and this leads to insecurity because people must raid each other's animals to survive. Over 900 individuals have died as a result of this food shortage. The largest issue in Karamoja is hunger, which calls for long-term investment solutions.
Karamoja has 27,000 square kilometers of land. This is an opportunity for all of us, especially us who are interested in agriculture. This land is not yet utilized to the fullest, and Karamoja as a region has only 1.4 million people. 1.4 million people occupying 10% of Uganda's land.
In Karamoja, you'll find Bagishu, you'll find Basoga, you'll find Iteso, you'll find Lango, you'll find Acholi, you'll find Bagandas doing business. Please come. But we are saying investments, yes, but benefits shared. Please don't come with a greedy and want to survive alone. You may not enjoy it.
The potential for profitable minerals like gold, copper, iron ore, rare earth elements, diamonds, and marble in Karamoja is also very high. The locals, however, believe that they do not profit from these minerals that are supplied to other regions of the nation. For instance, marble is taken to Tororo Cement, and marble is also transferred to Jinja to produce tiles. If Karamoja could only build similar manufacturing enterprises, many young people would be qualified to work there, benefiting their livelihoods and the region's development.
Karamoja has a wealth of minerals. Over 57 minerals are in Karamoja, not yet fully.
Mineral economy. Huge potential to invest in. You can't exhaust it. Employment through skilling, the way Good Leisure Farm is giving us skills, so that Karamoja can also join the business, the trade. So we are saying, help us to move from development aid to trade. Let's move really to business and commerce, because aid has not made us better.
According to David Pulkol, using the many minerals that Karamoja is endowed with will help encourage import substitution, boost manufacturing in the nation, and also foster codependence of the various sectors of the economy.
We are not putting enough resources, enough investment in Karamoja. Look at the oil, which is oozing out now between Kadam and Moroto Mountain. Kadam is Nakapriprit and Moroto, in the wild bushes there, opposite the oil thing in Turkana. That oil is ready to come out. It's not like the one of Albertine where it's waxy. You have to heat it to flow through the pipe. The one of Karamoja is ready, it is ready to flow. So why not actually come? So we thank God because now the president is now tarmacking the road going to that area, going to the border of Turkana. Okay, the Chinese are working on the border now. And the government has brought hydropower station for 132 kVA for industrial power. There's power which they're taking power to the sub-counties now. So since Adam left it, why does it take Uganda 60 years to make these investments? But because they thought we are useless, we are nothing, we were kept as a human zoo. So we are saying, let's change. Whether it is gold, you know how many metric tons of gold. You know 300 million metric tons of limestone. You have been building Uganda with this Hima cement with only how many reserves? With Tororo cement. Now Tororo has been getting for the last 15 years, 17 years, has been getting limestone from Karamoja. Now even the mineral called clinker, which Uganda is importing from South Africa for our cement industry, it is already in Karamoja. So, because no cement factory has got that mineral except Karamoja, clinker, you would stop importing. So that's why I'm saying that whether platinum, whether ruby, whether blue sapphires, whether it is uranium in Loleke, or rare earth minerals in Loyoro, in different parts, in Napak, rare earth minerals for making mobile phones, cobalt, copper, it's there. For making airplanes, those rare earth minerals, they're in Karamoja.
Karamoja also has a distinctive culture that, if given the encouragement and resources it needs to flourish, will draw numerous visits from all over the world.
Karamoja is the host of Chidepo National Park, but again the terrain, Mount Moroto, Mount Kadama, all the beautiful scenery that is in Karamoja is conducive for tourism. And Karamoja being a border region to Kenya, to South Sudan, gives us an opportunity to penetrate all those areas for trade.
Construction. African Hotel has just constructed and they're doing a good thing. Many hotels are coming up. So there will be a lot of, as people invest in Karamoja, there will be a lot of potential in construction industry. And construction materials is there. Why not actually cut those marbles from Karamoja? Why not put an airplane, a big airport in Moroto, and you can even export these things direct without bringing it to Entebbe. So this is the point we are making.
Erigority Nachiganda, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Business Today will now take a short break. Please don't touch that dial.
Smart 24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
for stories you can't let go. Only on Pearl Magic Prime.
You know the crowd is ready.
Okay, we've got to go live now. Everyone tuning in to Super Sport.
Welcome all over the world. You know the crowd is. You know the crowd is. You know the crowd is.
It's time for the main event.
Crowd is ready. Get loud and ready. It's time to settle the score.
We've waited a very long time, an age for some.
It is delicious, glorious, glorious.
Just like.
Are you ready for football's greatest season? Live on SuperSport, only on DSTV.
Teri kunabanga tugenda ku mupiira. Kyakabi. Nyumirwa emipiira nkaaga mwene egy'ekikopo kya World Cup live ku GoTV. Weefunire decoder ku mitwalo 2.5. Odde ne ku GoTV Super ku mitwalo 3.9 zokka. Kati nno wulira omuliro.
GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back from that short break. Thank you for your company. Now, let's move on to Uganda's anticipatory actions for climate change. Uganda is prone to a wide range of variety of calamities in different regions of the country. The majority of the known disasters are weather and climate related. As science has advanced, it has become possible to predict these events, giving disaster managers a window or opportunity to attack in response to a forecast and thereby lessen or prevent the potential impact of expected disasters. Stakeholders are working to identify provocative measures that can prevent these disasters, but with the government's commitment to disaster management is still unwavering. Let's have a look. Disaster and emergency management relies heavily on early warning and early action initiatives. Prediction, community involvement, response, and accompanying the communities on their journey throughout the process, first steps of the post-disaster phase. As far as budget allocations go, the Honorable Sarah Opendi has urged the government to give disaster management priority. This is because resources are scarce and the Ministry of Finance incurs additional costs when it distributes urgent financial donations to disaster-affected communities.
But we allocate funds also based on sometimes prioritization, because the executive comes up with what it feels are priorities, but also the resource envelope is limited. And as a result of that, we find that most of issues around climate change are not prioritized. And yet we all know that our economy is highly dependent on our natural resources.
As developing partners, the objective of the Uganda Red Cross is to increase information capacity and educate the population at large, because with these resources, catastrophe management, agricultural practices, increasing livelihoods, and more will be simple to stop.
All this happens at the community, not in Serena, not in our offices. It happens in the community. So to what extent are you preparing the communities? To what extent are you making these communities understand the information and they own it? But also, how do you build on their local information? They know they are not oblivious of some of these situations. So how do you reinforce the local knowledge, the traditional knowledge? So for me, that is the key game changer. And for us as Red Cross, that's where we put most of our emphasis. The beauty with our action, put it in a context, is that when you invest in action and the disaster doesn't happen, you have still invested in building the capacity of that community, of the individuals. So you can't take it away. But when you wait to respond, it is more expensive. I was talking to my colleague here from World Food Program, maybe you can expand on this. The amount of money they have spent in Karamoja during this current emergency of giving food relief, if they had invested that in early action, maybe they would have spent a quarter of that money.
Government will support the anticipatory action plan, according to the Ministry of Relief and Disaster Preparedness. This is because relying on the contingent budget funds is unrealistic.
This very approval of this plan by Parliament and have it in the budget. Because if you continue depending on the contingency budget funds, it won't be possible, because now other issues are coming in and also other priorities coming very fast. So you see issues of disasters go down, and yet it's really affecting the economics and also the livelihoods of the people of Uganda. So we are trying our best to make sure that this plan comes on board.
The Uganda National Meteorology Association discussed its progress in closing the information gap and provide us with a projection for the coming few months.
Media, like district, local radio stations. Like recently, we were in southwestern Uganda and West Nile region, where we had teams from UNIMA really reaching out to these local radio stations. For example, we were in Kabale, Mbarara, Hoima, and Fort Potro for the team in western Uganda. We're going to have more rainfall within the southwestern Uganda, and a general reduction in rainfall within the central and really very lowest rainfall within the northern parts of the country. That is West Nile, Acholi, and the Karamoja region expect to be a bit drier, and as compared to the central, which will also be a bit dry, but for western Uganda we expect to have some rains.
Government shouldn't be placed in charge of anticipatory action alone. Developing partners and local communities should also participate. Ronah, Nahabwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today. Now, World Bank has agreed to extend $638 million in funding towards scaling the electricity connections in Uganda. Okasai Opolot, the State Minister of Energy, claims that this financing will help advance the free connections policy. Let's have a look.
In 2018, government launched a free electricity connection policy where customers were required to pay only $20,000 for inspection, and government caters for the remaining connection fees in a move aimed at increasing the number of power connections around the country. However, the free connection policy was first suspended in 2020 after the World Bank, which was the biggest funder, withdrew, citing corruption and failure to implement the project as had been agreed.
The economy is hard. Look at the soldier.
The State Minister for Energy, Okasai Opolot, therefore has assured Ugandans that the project is back and that it's going to be effective next year.
And I would wish to assure the country we are going to, the World Bank has actually provided us funding, $638 million, which is going to be, that project is going to be effective next year, and that project will enable us to actually have those who are unable to connect to get connected to power.
People from the rural areas have long maintained that many small businesses cannot pay the existing connection price of $730,000 levied by power distributor Umeme.
Where we are, the poles are there, but they are not power in the houses. What is the problem? It's the high charge. So now government has put a lot of money there, but people are not able to connect the power.
Not only here, but everywhere.
Okasai always advises that in order to obtain electricity, a house must be worthy of receiving it, adding that bringing electricity to a grass-thatched house is quite risky. Speaking to the media today, therefore, he disclosed that such houses will also be connected thanks to an innovation.
I know there are so many households that are not in permanent structures, some of them are in grass households. We shall reach even those people in grass-thatched huts through two ways. One, rooftop solar panels. They can supply electricity to whatever type of structure you have, whether you are in a grass-thatched hut or you are in a mabati house.
In 2017, power distributor company Umeme announced they had suspended implementation of the Free Connection project after running into areas that had not been paid by government for the connections they had so far made. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
In the same light, there is a story about load shedding in Kabale municipality. Now, following the ongoing power outages in the major Kabale districts, residents have expressed displeasure with the government and the Umeme farm after suffering significant fuel cost losses and businesses closures as a result of load shedding. The district has been struggling with unreliable energy for the previous 3 weeks with around 96 hours of total blackout, forcing residents and business people to choose gasoline as a source of power, while a sizable portion who relied solely on electricity were left with no other choice. Let's have the story.
The owner of Brickops International Studios, a videography, photography and other computer service studio in Kabale district, claims that because of load shedding in the area, they have experienced losses and that going without power for a long period of time has a significant impact on their cost of living. He goes on to claim that this year's business performance was subpar as a result of the district's erratic power supply.
Much of the work we do entirely depends on electricity. So finding ourselves not having a full day working, even if it is partly doing that work, it is very, very unfortunate. So I would like to put my disappointment with the Umeme. I think they need, I don't know how these people have been operating. I would personally say it could be ranked as one of the worst performing companies in Uganda today. Every other time, every day, we don't have electricity. And really these people need to understand that the cost of living entirely for us depends on electricity because that's the source of income.
Masiko continues by pleading with the district officials and the government as a whole to think about looking into the load shedding problems in the area and stating that the locals are really uncomfortable with these circumstances.
The government of Uganda to really think about the operation of this company because you cannot have load shedding every day. It's a very big disappointment. I know even there are very many of our colleagues who are equally disappointed, although they may not be speaking right now. But I want to assure you that as Kabale, we are really very, very uncomfortable with the operations of this Umeme business.
The operations manager of Sino Mineral and Iron Ore Plant in Buhura Sub-County, Kabale District, Brian Munanira, says that the company has lost equipment worth millions because of unstable power supply, adding that there has been a sharp decline in the number of tons produced per hour amidst the use of a lot of money on purchasing fuel to run the machine.
Entirely, like this factory, we use a lot of power, and the Kabale region, Sigas region, and Kawa in particular, I think we have a problem of power. First of all, the power is not enough, and when it's enough, it's on and off. We work 30 minutes, power goes off. When we put on a generator, when we switch on a generator, 10 minutes, then power is back. We again switch off the generator. After switching off the generator immediately, power is back. So we've lost some equipment because of instability in voltage and also the capacity.
The Great Kabale Power District's blackouts and unstable electricity are caused by a faulty transformer at the Kabale Power Station, according to the head of communications at Umeme Company's national offices, Peter Kawuju. He also adds that a new transformer has been added to replace the faulty one.
The transformer faulted, and so we are bringing a new one. The team is actually already, we sent the first team that came this morning. They arrived at 5:30, and the transformer is also on its way, the new one. Because that first team was to establish what the problem was, which they have seen, and they recommended a new transformer, so which is already on the way to Kawale. So we had to establish what the problem was, and we discovered the transformer was actually faulty, and it would not perform to the expectation. And that's why the recommendation was made that we bring a new one, which is already on its way. Otherwise, there are times also when there are some isolated incidences along the network here and there. But once they are reported, we move and fix. So this because, even last week before the transformer faulted, we had challenges. We had people complaining a lot.
Umeme Limited is the largest electricity distributor in Uganda, distributing about 97% of all electricity used in the country. Nobat, Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Thank you, Nobat and Martha Nimsima, for that report. Now, moving on to Uganda's transition to electric cars. Through its state-owned vehicle company, Chira Motors Corporation, and the government of Uganda has invested more than $50 million on electric transportation. According to Uganda's Minister of Research and Technology, Dr. Monica Musenero, there is a need to switch to electric vehicles because of the country's rising fuel prices.
Dr. Monica Musenero says they are concentrating on producing more vehicles to save the country from environmental pollution and the growing fuel prices. Ugandans are recommended to switch to indigenous technology to build e-mobility vehicles as the cost of production is decreasing.
Developing domestic technology to produce e-mobility vehicles, the buses, private cars, motorcycles, and light trains. We are going to work developing, and we shall incrementally replace. There's a lot of demand. The cost of production goes down. And that is what we expect with the e-mobility solutions. The vehicles, they are going to become cheaper. So that is why our strategy in Uganda, the beginning is not to make vehicles for individuals, because at the current rate, the production is still very high cost. So we are focusing on producing vehicles which help people move without you needing to own one. And the cost of you moving on a bus is affordable. It's much cheaper than you driving your private car. So we are trying to make means of transport which is clean, available, affordable, so that you can save that extra money and do some investment, so that when the cars, personal cars, are finally affordable, you are able to buy one.
Okasaya Pilot, the state's Minister for Energy, urges that in order to boost e-mobility, the supply of electricity needs to be increased as well as tracked to the private sector.
E-mobility is not taking us by surprise. We have actually been planning what we need to do in transition. E-mobility is bringing a few things into play. One, we must have electricity energy supply. That one is a starting point. As we have been thinking about other fuels, similarly, the fuel for e-mobility is electricity. We need to increase our generation of electricity to enable us provide that energy which the e-mobility is now calling for, and that is electricity supply.
Energy Minister advised the government to ensure that there is good policy on e-mobility and establishment of the law favorable for both entities.
We have got to create new laws to enable us regulate the new businesses that are going to accrue. There are indications, yes, we must have petrol stations within the radius of 50 kilometers to meet the increasing demand. We are piloting the technologies, we are working with our partners. For example, GI said we have actually established charging stations for motorcycles along the road to Masaka, Kampala-Masaka Road. This should be followed with even charging stations for Kayola, which the minister was talking about. How can we position those charging stations to enable us move forward with e-mobility?
In a transition to electric vehicles, the government will save the environment from pollution according to Jacob Hornback, the Chief Executive Officer of Border Work.
Everybody knows burning fuel in border borders pollutes our air, emits a lot of carbon dioxide. It costs the owner of the motorcycle most of his income fueling his bike. So changing from petrol to electric helps government with import substitution, helps us using more domestically produced electricity, helps us cleaning our air, makes public transport cheap, and allows the border guy to earn more money.
Furthermore, Andrew Bakashaba, Personal Assistant Resident Director at the International University of East Africa, states that they are experimenting with new technology to promote e-mobility, with 60% of the items manufactured locally in Uganda to reduce on production cost of e-mobility.
About 60% is can be sourced locally here. The lights, the mirrors, the tires, the frame is made here. But then there is this technology which we cannot make here, and about 40% of that we assemble it.
Anju Barije, Samuel Chirimunde, Smart 24 Business Today.
Business Today will now end here, but as always, we are always appreciative of your company. If you missed this, there is a link on YouTube at Smart 24 TV and more updates on Twitter, Facebook, and the like on the same handles. My name is Ronah Nahabwe with Winnie and Nakawuki on the sign language. Until next time, have a good night.
Smart 24, driving business.